Hello and welcome to episode 5 of the Infinite Ascension Dev Diaries. In this video, I'm going to be going over the new collision system that I've implemented since the first videos that I posted about a year ago. If you watch the mod editor video from that series, you'll notice that I used a collision sphere, collision circle, based at the center of each ship to do the point collisions against. This worked well then, but now it's the new hotness, so let's see the new system. Basically, the basis of the new system is a collision mask created with two shape types, a circle and rectangle, where you can offset them and create multiples of them, and they do collisions against points and beams. At some point in the future I might do area-to-area collisions, but right now that's not needed for any of the usage scenarios that I'm currently got going for probably the alpha or the first public test. So why am I doing collision shapes rather than doing a collision against the per pixel or mesh data? Basically what I want to do is I want to make sure the server and the server application is as lightweight as possible. In this case I want to make sure the server doesn't need to load in the full mesh data for every ship type in order to do collisions against it. By making these 2D masks, I can create what will look like pretty accurate, almost per pixel collisions without having the overhead of doing a per pixel actual calculation in the background. So now we can take a look at the actual collision detection in the game. In this case we're going to go over the beam detection and using some of the debug graphics that I have that I used for testing. You can see here that there's the white line is actually the beam weapon that I'm testing against. The center is the beginning of the beam, where the end is going to be the beam where I can click to change its endpoint. The green circles and rectangles are the actual collision shapes I'm going to be colliding against. As you see, as I rotate the ship, they move with the ship. This is part of the offset to make sure that the shapes stay in line with wherever you place them. When I collide, you can see that this circle turns red, and this little white circle is actually showing the point of collision, because when I fire a beam weapon, I need to know where I need to make the explosion effect or the hit effect. So as for the math behind these collisions, I use two separate methods, one for the rectangle and one for the circle. The circle starts off by using a discriminant function, which calculates the number of collision points between a circle and a line. I then check to see if that is greater than 1, or if there's more than one collision against that circle, with the most being 2, tangent line having 1 intersection, secant line having 2. Once I determine there is a collision with the circle, I can use another function to actually determine the points of those collisions. By finding the nearest point, I can then calculate the collision point, which you see there as the white circle. So the collision system for the rectangle is just more math. In this case I'm using determinants to calculate the collision points between two line segments. This gives me both whether or not there is a collision and the point of the collision. And I'll post that and the circle math as links on the sidebar. So that covers the beam or vector to rectangle and circle collisions. However, there's one thing it doesn't cover, and that's actually if the ship which is firing the beam is already inside the collision mask of an enemy ship. In that case, I just do a simple point collision detection against both the rectangle and the circle to determine if the beam at fire time is already colliding with something. If so, I cancel all the other calculations early and get a little bit of an efficiency gain. Now that we've gone over beam collision, we can go over the actual point collision, again with the assistance of some of the debug graphics that I put out there. This is going to be a little differently, and I've removed the circle to simplify the actual scene you're looking at. Basically, the blue square and the white circle outline are showing the math that's going on behind the scenes. The cursor and the green rectangle are showing the positions as you would see them in the game for the collisions. As you see, as I move my cursor, the white circle moves closer or further from the blue rectangle. As I rotate the ship, you'll see the white circle is slightly rotating. What's happening here is there's a linear rotation happening from that point to the origin based on the rotation of the ship, so that I can actually rotate the point to the rectangle in the actual math rather than rotating the rectangle to the point. The reason I need to do this is as I can do axis-aligned rectangle point collision detection very easily. When you've got an object-aligned collision detection against a rectangle, it's significantly more complicated. So once I've made this rotation, I can rotate the point to the rectangle, do the collision detection as an axis-aligned rectangle, never actually leaving the origin with the actual math that's going on in the background. The circle point collision detection is a lot simpler because doing point collisions against circles is about the easiest math you can actually do for any type of collision. So in this case, the point and the cursor are 1. The collision detection is done at whichever offset point you see the green circle at. It doesn't have to be translated back to the origin and rotated as I did with the rectangle. So as I fly around, you can see I move the point, it intersects with the circle, and you have a collision. If it doesn't, you don't. So there you have it. That is the new collision system for Infinite Ascension. As I mentioned earlier, I'll be posting some links in the sidebar with some pages on the math that I'm using for the beam collision detection, and probably for some of the point collision detection on the rectangle. It's a little complicated. I'll be posting a video on the mod editor here fairly soon, and in that we'll actually go through and rig a ship with a full collision mask, and we'll see it in game with projectiles actually colliding with it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.